will discuss again on the second module, which we have one of which we have discussed earlier. Right, today we will discuss again the second one, which is based on the school leadership and management. The last session was pretty good because some of the participants they raised some queries, some questions, right, and I tried to answer those questions. You might have gone through the units that I have discussed with you, and that is also has been made available to you by the IGNOU University, right? So today, what we have to discuss here, today what we are going to discuss is, let me share it on the screen and just kindly again confirm it to me whether it is visible to you or not. Is it visible? Perfectly okay for you? Is the screen visible to the participants?
Yes, it's visible here.
Can someone confirm it? Okay, okay, fine. Right. Okay. So today we have to discuss about the co-curricular activities. Dear learners, dear participants, you know that while you are working as a teacher, as a faculty in your institution or in your school, right, in your country, maybe in South Africa, maybe in Jumbo, maybe in some other country, Nigeria or somewhere else, right? So throughout the whole world, in the entire universe, whenever we talk about the education system, we talk about the classroom teaching, and along with that we also talk about the co-curricular activities. So the co-curricular activities, you are very well familiar with the co-curricular activities, what actually they mean, and how many ways they can be planned, and how the successful planning and successful execution of the co-curricular activities may be done by the school teachers as well as by the school head or the school principal. So we will take into consideration all these important points, and we'll try to understand that how things work, particularly when we talk about the planning of co-curricular activities. So this is the unit that we have to discuss today. I have just shared it on the screen, and the screen will scroll up and down, and I will try to give relevant examples. And whenever you feel that you want some examples, just type in the chat box, or you may just give me a signal. I will just pause down and we will take your queries. So this is the structure of the unit. We will just go for a brief introduction that what actually co-curricular activities are all about. We will talk about the objectives of the unit, right? Then we will go for the concept and evolution of co-curricular activities. This concept and evolution of co-curricular activities is very important. See, again, I have highlighted this. Why this is important? Because we will try to understand that when we say that this is the concept of co-curricular activities, what actually that means. Then we will talk about the scope of the co-curricular programs, in what manner, in which spirit the school is going to take out the co-curricular programs, that we have to understand, right? Because that will help you as a teacher also and as a school head also to understand the importance, the actual importance of co-curricular programs. Then another important topic that we will discuss today is managing the co-curricular program, how these programs may be managed, how they can be organized, and how they can be managed, and in that what is the role of the school head. This also we will try to understand. So briefly, if I say, today we are going to discuss a very important and very interesting topic, that is about what actually co-curricular program means and how they can be executed. They can be planned, they can be executed in the classroom or inside the classroom, and as well as outside the classroom, right? So let us move ahead and try to understand that what actually the co-curricular activities they mean. So dear learners, where I find the content, the text very important, I have highlighted it in different forms. You can just go through those lines, those part of the content area in detail also, right? So dear participants, when we talk about education, we know that education has a very broad meaning, education has a very wider meaning. And when we say that education, it talks about the development of the individual, then we are perfectly right in that. Across the world, in the Asian countries, in the European countries, in the African countries, wherever, throughout the world, whenever we talk about education, it basically talks about an development of the learner, the all-round development of the learner, all-round development of the personality. And when we talk about personality of an individual, then we know, based on the taxonomy given by Bloom in the year 1956, in the previous 50 years, in the last 50 years of the previous century, Bloom has highlighted the importance of the taxonomy of educational objectives. where we talk about the cognitive domain, the affective domain, and the psychomotor domains. Now, to understand these domains and how the co-curricular activities are actually related with these domains, this is the important theme. This is the important part that we have to understand in the today's session. Okay, so let us move a little bit ahead. So, dear participant, dear learners, when we talk about the co-curricular activities, we have different connotations. We have different words through which we say or through which we apply to understand the activities which are other than the curricular activities. So at one point we have the curricular activities, and on the other side we have the co-curricular activities. Now it is important for a school teacher as well as for a school administrator to create a balance between both, that is the co-curricular activities and the curricular activities. Why is it important to create a balance between curricular and co-curricular activities? It is important because then only we will say, or we will be in a position to say that yes, we are going for the perfect and all round the holistic development of the individual. Otherwise, what will happen? Suppose you are a science teacher, or suppose you are teaching mathematics, or maybe you are a language teacher, right? So now when you are going to your institution, when you are taking some class in your class as a subject teacher, then what will happen? You are trying to give examples related to science only, related to mathematics, related to the language, right? But in that course of action, you will find that there are certain other things also which are more meaningful, even though they are not discussed in the given syllabus or in the given curriculum. Why is it so? Because science is not restricted to the classroom only. Similarly, mathematics is not restricted to the classroom only. The importance of the subject like science, mathematics, languages, you just name any subject. It may be your national language also. So the importance of the subject, it lies inside as well as outside the classroom. So to understand the actual meaning of education, to understand the actual meaning of the subject specific programs also, I would say you need to understand that how some activities may be organized, and we try to name them as the co-curricular activities. Now there is a question that in a school, maybe in your school there is an enrollment of 500 learners, or maybe 1000 learners, or maybe it may be a small institution, it may be a small school where only 100 students are enrolled, right? Now it doesn't make any difference that what is the number of the learners in your institution. The way or the procedure, the process of organizing, the planning and executing the co-curricular activities is almost the same, right? But someone has to take that responsibility. Now the question is that who is responsible for organizing those activities? So when we are trying to discuss, when we are trying to understand this postgraduate diploma in school leadership and management, right? So this is school leadership and management. It indicates, it tells us what is the philosophy of this school leadership and management. It indicates that it is all about the administrative and academic leadership. It is the academic as well as the administrative leadership. Why administrative leadership and academic leadership? Because to organize such type of programs in your institution, you not only need certain assistance from other people, assistance from the learners, assistance from the parents, but also assistance from the government that is running your institutions. Or maybe a school may be run by some NGO, by some non-governmental organization, maybe by some other local authority. So whosoever is running the school is supposed to provide assistance to the teachers, to the school head, to the administrators, so that they may plan in a good manner, in an effective manner, that how a balance may be created between both the curricular as well as the co-curricular activities. So dear participants, dear learners, today we are talking about the co-curricular activities. This is the unit that we are trying to discuss, planning for co-curricular activities. And by now what we have discussed, by now we have discussed about, just see on the screen, by now we have discussed about the concept of, or just a brief introduction of the co-curricular activities, that what actually it means when we say co-curricular activities. It is something which is beyond the curricular activities, because there is a lot of scope for the curricular activities. For a science teacher, for a mathematics teacher, you always go for problem solving, you just go for explanation of the terms, you go for different things in the classroom. But to understand, but to make it more clear, you also need to organize some co-curricular activities also. And why it is important, I already answered This is important because it leads towards the holistic development of the learners, and the need of the 21st century education is the holistic development of the learners. Okay, now another important section which you can see, which is just going scroll on your screen, is the objectives. What are the objectives? What are the objectives which are decided, which are fixed, which are located to understand this planning of curriculum? So this module developed by the Indira Gandhi National Open University, right? This is too good in the sense that the objectives, they are very well defined, and we will just go for the objectives one by one. What is the first objective? It is to explain the concept of co-curricular activities. Now we need to explain that what is actually the meaning of co-curricular activities. Second objective is the evolution of co-curricular activities, how it has been evaluated since the last many years, right? And then we also need to understand that what may be the various co-curricular activities. This is the objective number 3. Then we will try to discuss the scope of the co-curricular program. Then we will try to appreciate the spirit of the school, that in which manner, in which spirit the school is taking or school is going to organize these co-curricular activities. Then we will try to explain the principles. Now this is very important. When we will come to this section, I will try to give many examples also, that what may be the principles, what are the principles for directing some co-curricular activities. And last but not the least is to manage the co-curricular activities effectively. So dear learners, if I again, if I repeat this section, that these are the objectives, you will just find that these objectives are very important, because when you will go for preparation of an assignment, or when you will go for your term and examinations, you will find certain questions which will be based on these objectives. So we will try to answer these questions one by one. Okay, now let us take the first topic. This is the concept and evaluation of co-curricular activities. How the co-curricular activities may be defined. What is the concept? What is the actual concept of this one? Co-curricular activities. Now again, we will start with the question, how we may define the co-curricular activities. So we have various definitions, we have many definitions which define that what may be the co-curricular activities. But when as an educationist, when as an education expert, I try to take one definition or more than one definition and try to analyze those definitions, then I find that there is a very clear cut difference, or there is a, you can say it is complementary in nature. The curricular and the co-curricular activities, though they are different from each other, but we can say that though the both are very highly related or interrelated to each other. Why I'm saying this thing? Because again you will find here, this I have highlighted in the yellow color, what may be co-curricular in one school may be curricular in another one. Now this is the beauty, this is a challenge, but this is the beauty also of the curricular and the co-curricular activities. This is the beauty of the academia, this is the beauty of the content, this is the beauty of the academics, that what may be curricular in one school may be curricular in another one. Now why it has been mentioned here, what does it mean actually? It means that, suppose, let us take an example of the Nigerian school of education, right? Let us take the school education system of Nigeria, for example. We can take some other African countries also. Now suppose you are teaching science in one particular school, suppose school number A, and second school is school B. Now you have two schools, school A and school B. Now it may happen that in school A, or in the first school, there may be a good science teacher, or it may have a science laboratory. The school may have all the things which are required for teaching science in an effective manner. But on the other hand, in school B, I'm taking the example of a school B. In school B, it may happen that the facilities, the physical facilities, the curricular facilities, the co-curricular facilities, they are not that good as in the school number A, right? So there is a major difference between both the schools. So though the both belong to the same state, that is the Nigeria, right? So I'm taking this example. Now what will happen, that in school A, where there are good facilities of science laboratories, of science, you can say the science, the models based on science, there are good science teachers, right? There are more than one science teacher. They may organize a science exhibition in their school, and they may take it as a part of the co-curricular. They may just design that activity as the co-curricular. On the other hand, in school B, where there is only one school teacher and no other facility is there for teaching of science. No school laboratories are there, not more than one teachers are there. They do not have the school uh, the science magazines. They do not have the science experimentation facilities. So they will also teach science exhibition, but that will be in the content only. That will be theoretical only. Whereas in school A, where good facilities are there, they may just organize, they may just plan maybe one or two science exhibitions in the whole session. But for school B, what it will be? It will be only theoretical. It will be only in the textbook. The teacher will just teach the students, the learners, that what is the meaning of science exhibition, but they will not get a first-hand experience at what actually is it. So that's why it has been mentioned here that what may be co-curricular in one school may be curricular in another one. Now, another important implication of this highlighted text is that there is another important thing which is associated with this highlighted text, that it do not bound any school or any teacher to understand or to just finally decide that yes, this will be curricular and this will be co-curricular. No, there is no need to be that much rigid, especially when we are designing or we are planning the curricular and the co-curricular activities, because I told you already that both the concepts, curricular and the co-curricular, they are highly interrelated and highly dependent upon each other, or in one manner you can say that both are complementary to each other, right? So both are helpful to each other also. Now let us move a little ahead and try to understand that what is the, let me just again reach to the content. Yeah, here we were. Let us try to understand that what is the evolution, how the co-curricular activities actually got evoluted. What is the origin of these co-curricular activities, right? So here you can see a definition. I have taken one definition according to Jones. So what Jones has said, that the teachers, they can understand the extracurricular activities. How they can understand these activities? They need to understand the history. They need to understand that how these co-curricular activities, the extent of origin of these co-curricular activities, how they came into existence. Means what was that scenario which led towards the evolution of co-curricular activities. So to understand this, we need to go way back in the history, and that has been divided into four distinct parts by Jones. Jones seems to be an educationist, and he has divided into four parts. So what are these four distinct periods, or what are these four things? The first one is the activities are not given much importance. The activities are not given much importance. What does it mean? It means that the teachers, they do not consider the co-curricular activities as important. So this may be due to some ignorance. This may be due to the understanding that curricular is sufficient in itself. There is no requirement, or there is nothing as such important which is associated with the co-curricular activities, right? So this may be one approach. This may be the first period. This first period means it may be the first instance that activities are not given much importance. Second is, in the second stage, the extra activities, they are not appreciated by many teachers. Teachers oppose them. Why the teachers oppose them? The teachers oppose these activities. They do not appreciate these co-curricular activities because they find, or they just believe, that they are engaged in the curricular activities. They do not have much time to devote towards the co-curricular activities. So this is another important thing, right? So in the first stage, where it was, what was in the first stage? I told you, in the first stage it was the activities are not given much importance, whereas the second one, the extra activities, they are not much appreciated by many teachers. But what happens in the third stage and what happens in the fourth stage? You will see a dramatic change in that. Change in what sense? Change in the sense that the teachers, they ultimately realize that in the present century, in the 21st century, and in the modern system of education, wherever we are, maybe we are in India, or we are dealing with the Indian school education system, or we are sitting in Africa as a school teacher, we are engaged in teaching and learning experiences. They understand, or they have to accept this fact, that we need to organize some extra activities which we call as the extracurricular activities. So this is the third stage where they accept and appreciate the curricular, the co-curricular or the extracurricular activities. Now, there is an important thing which we need here to discuss. And this important thing is that what brings out the change? What brings out this change in the thinking of the teachers? What led them towards the changed viewpoint, that why earlier the teachers who are not going to accept the importance of co-curricular activities, they in the third stage and in the fourth stage, they decide or they accept and appreciate the co-curricular activities, as well as in the fourth stage, that is in the last stage, the extracurricular activities, they are being promoted, they have been promoted. So why is it so? It is so because ultimately the teachers, they understand that only face to face teaching, or face to face teaching and learning, face to face sharing of experiences is not sufficient to make their teachers, to make their learners understand the subject in a better manner. So this is the common belief. So this is an important part, and this has been given by, let me just go back again, this has been given by whom? This has been, this classification, or you can say this concept of four distinct periods have been given by Jones. So Jones has clearly defined it, that how the, at first, see, I have highlighted it. At first, it is ignored, then it is opposed, later it is tolerated, and finally it is promoted. So, this is the important line. Many times you will see that this is also asked in your term and examination also as a question. And many a times, whenever you are talking with some other educationists in some seminars, in some conferences, in some workshop, you can give your expert opinion based on the opinion of Jones also. That why curriculum or the co-curricular activities, they were at first ignored, then they were opposed, but later they were tolerated, they were accepted. Tolerated means they were accepted. It was accepted that yes, they have their own importance. The co-curricular activities, they need to be organized, they need to be planned. And finally, it is used by all the teachers. Finally, it is promoted in the whole, in all the schools. And now you will see that it has become a universal fact that in all the schools, across all the levels, across all the levels, maybe the primary level, maybe the secondary level, maybe the senior secondary, or maybe at the college and the university level, the co-curricular activities are promoted in one way or other, right? So this was an interesting thing to understand, that what were the four stages of development of curriculum, right? Okay, let me take some question if we have, because we have made enough discussion on understanding that what is the meaning of curriculum, and what is the story, or what is the evolution, how it got evaluated, how it originated, right? Okay, so any question from any participant, you may please unmute yourself, or you may just write in the chat box also, or should I proceed ahead? You will just go for the questions later on.
Please, I have
Any
a
one of you?
question.
Yeah, please, please.
Please, the part where teachers are no who are not interested in the co-curricular activities. Um,
Okay.
yes, I have a question there. So let's say you have a teacher in your school who is let's say due to faith or something, he doesn't believe in football, and
Okay.
there's a football in the school that is being organized after school. So in this case, if the teacher um, knows, he knows about co-curricular and how it benefits, but because he is believed, he doesn't want to take part in football. Does that also make him ignorant about the effect of co-curricular?
Okay, so I just got your question. For the sake of convenience of other, let me repeat the question that you have, and you just tell me if I have understood it correctly or not. You are trying to say that there may be some physical education teacher, a sports teacher, right? And playing of football. You have taken the example of playing of football. What I will say is that the sports, they also play a very important role when we talk about the co-curricular activities. Now, you as a school teacher, you know, and other teachers, they also must understand that sports, and especially football, or it may be some other sports activity, it is helpful in understanding the mutual understanding among the learners. It helps in promoting the group activities among the learners. So in one way or other, I will not say that the teacher, though understand the importance of sports or the football, right, but is ignorant. I will not say the teacher is ignorant, but what I will say or what I will suggest is that over a period of time, the teacher will definitely understand that yes, through the sports also or through some other activities also, the co-curricular activities may be organized in such a manner that may be made more interesting. Like, to understand mathematics, football is one good medium. Football may be some activity based on football as a game may be just organized to understand mathematics, right? So I will say that teacher has to play a very important role here. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. So, dear learners, now it's the time to check your progress. As I have already discussed this with you in the previous session also on 3rd of February. So, here in check of your progress, what we do, we just try to go for the questions or some of the questions that you will find again and again when you will go through the content also. The first question is that how we will differentiate between the co-curricular, between the curricular and the co-curricular activities. So, this I have already discussed with you. There is a difference between the curricular and co-curricular activities, but at the same time I will also suggest you, I will give you my expert opinion that as a school teacher, as a school leader, as a school head, you also need to understand that there is not only difference between these two, there is also similarities, there are similarities also. So when in one line I will say that curricular and co-curricular activities, they are basically complementary to each other. So you need to answer this question later on when you will get some spare time. Another important question is, what are the stages that the attitude towards co-curricular programs has gone through? So these are the four stages that we have recently discussed. And who gave these four stages? These four stages were given by Jones, right? So this check your progress is very important, and I find it very interesting from your point of view and from my point of view also, because this gives you a very brief idea that what we are discussing and what we need to focus upon, so that you may get some help, some assistance in preparing their assignment and to just go for the term and exams also. Okay, so let us move a little bit ahead and talk about the scope of the co-curricular program. Now, when we talk about the scope of the co-curricular program, this is again very important, because the scope of the co-curricular program has widened up. It has got special attention in the schools, maybe among the boys, maybe among the girls, among the students. Why is it so? Because these co-curricular programs, they provide the learners as well as the teachers an opportunity, so that they may trace out that what is special among the learners, that what extra they can do, what they can do, what in what manners, in which manners they can do it, what is their efficiency, how much they are competent. These all questions, they may be answered when we go for this scope of the co-curricular program. Now, to understand this scope, we need to go for the analysis of some of the activities that we generally conduct in our institutions or in our schools. The first activity or the first one is the assembly. Now, what is the assembly? You all are very familiar with the assembly. Assembly is the first activity in any school, in the morning assembly, right? So what the learners they do in the morning assembly or in the assembly, there they have an ample opportunity, a lot of opportunity to understand that what is going on all around. Basically, assembly is the assembleness of the peoples, assemble where they assemble together, where the teachers are there, where the learners are there, where the whole school staff is there. So this assembly is very important in that sense also. It makes the learner feel that we are a group, we are not the individuals. So this improves the feeling of cohesiveness among the learners, right? What second important thing is that in the assembly, the learners, they, since they are standing there with the other learners, with the teachers, so they just understand that what is going on all around. Suppose in the morning assembly there may be some morning prayer, there may be some pledge, there may be some anthem, right? There may be some talk, there may be something else also, right? In the morning assembly, what you may include, so if you are given the charge of organizing a morning assembly in your institution, what you can do, you can just talk about something new that is going on in the world around. You may just talk to them that which season, which weather condition is prevailing in those days. Like, suppose this is the month of the February, so throughout the world or throughout your country, throughout the area where you are living, right, there may be a change or variation in the temperature. So you may just tell them that botanical, or what is the scientific importance of this month of February in your locality. You can just share this experience with the learners. Or what you can do, you may just organize a small activity, a small program, some song program, some program based on some drama, some program based on some national duty that they have to perform. So such type of the activities, they may be organized in the morning assembly. So what does this morning assembly it signify? It signifies basically the opportunity. It signifies the participation of the learners, how they can get involved with the learners of the other classes in the same class as well as in the other class. So this morning assembly is very important. That is the reason that it has been taken as the first point. So assembly, morning assembly, or assembly at any point of time, because in some of the schools assemblies are also conducted, they are also organized at the end of the day also, means twice a day, means in the morning assembly as well as the evening assembly before the school gets off. Now it depends upon your institution that what you are going to plan. So these assembly programs, they are very important. A lot of have been mentioned here. I have discussed with you many points. So one good thing about assembly is that there is one good thing about assembly which other programs they just lack. Then what is the good thing about assembly? That all the type of the activities and the performances, maybe a singing competition is there, it may be some drama as I told you, it may be some exhibition, a small scale exhibition, it may be calling out some expert from your local police, from your local shops, or you can just call anyone who is good enough in business, or just give a motivational lecture, right? Or some special day like human rights day, or anti-tobacco day, or on birth anniversary, or some national leaders. Such type of the activities, they may be just conducted, and that is the actual meaning or the real meaning of the assemblies. And morning assemblies, I told you that assemblies can be conducted or organized twice a day, morning as well as in the evening before the school gets off. Right now, the second important point, or the second important classification, is the school club. Now what is a school club? You all know, like in your society you have the clubs. The clubs are basically meant for the people who are adolescent, or the people who are good enough in the age, means when you cross the age of 20 or 25, then it is expected generally that one should enter a club or something like that, right? But that is a different overview. Here I am talking not about the public clubs, here I am talking about the school clubs, and these school clubs are really very meaningful. Why they are meaningful? Because they offer the versatile types of the co-curricular activities. When I say the versatile types of co-curricular activities, it simply means that these school clubs may organize some specific events based on the nature of the subject. What type of subject? Like if you are a math teacher and you have a mathematics club in your school, what you can organize there? You may organize some program there. You may just organize some program. It may be based on the use of computers. It may be it may be based on some game which is related to the mathematics. Similarly, if you are a science teacher, then it may be a school science club. And one good thing about the science club, or the language club, or the sports club, or the mathematics club is that the learners of all the grades, they may be involved there as a team or as a particular class only. Like if you are willing to organize an activity in the school club at a grand level, at a bigger level, then what you can do, you can divide your the school classrooms into uh, different, you can say, into different teams, like grade 5 and grade 6 or grade 7th, they may be in team A. Then grade 8, 9 and 10, they may be in the team B. And then you may just organize one competition between these two teams, right? So the school clubs, they also play a very important role, and these school clubs, they also give you the opportunity to show that how much creative you are. Suppose, for example, if you are a language teacher, if you are teaching uh, some indigenous language or some language in your country, right? What you can do, or you are just taking some foreign language, like you are in some African country, but you are teaching some foreign language in your school, in your institution, then what you can do, you can just show to the learners that what else you know, despite the subject knowledge or the content knowledge only. It means that not only you have to teach the language, but also in that foreign language you may just present before them some literature, you may just present before them some music based on that, you may just provide present before them some dance activity, right, which is related to that foreign language. So what impact that will made on the learners, that will really give the learners an idea that we are not only limited, our existence is not only limited to a particular society or a particular country only. Rather, they will understand that this universe, this whole world is too big, and we are living in one continent out of six or seven. So that will just broaden out their way of looking into the world. So these school clubs are very creative, and they just offer a variety of experiences, the versatile experiences to the learners. So that's why I told you that you must try to maintain the school clubs in your institution. Now, another important point is the student council. What is the student council? Now this is very important and very easy to understand the student council. Like in your municipality or in your local surroundings, in your local governance, you have some council, right? So if you are living in a city, or you are living in a village, or if you are living in a place which is in between the village and a city, then you have some government, some local government, or some government in the form of some council. So similarly, to ensure the participation of the learners in the school governance, you may organize, or you may just develop some student council. And for that, what you have to do, for that you need to go for selecting or electing some representatives, like some of them who are good in sports, they will just represent the sports department. Some of the learners, they might be good in drama, they may be good in the some other activities like singing, some might be good in sports, some might be good in curricular activities, some might be good in leadership, some might be good in administration, some might be good in cleanliness, some might be very obedient, right? So based on the characteristics, the special and the particular characteristics of the learners, what you can do, you can just organize, or you can just maintain a student council in your institution. So by now we have discussed about three important points. Let me just repeat it again for your convenience. The first one was the assembly. We are talking about, what is the topic we are discussing here? We are talking about the scope of the co-curricular program. The first we discussed is the assembly. The second we discussed is the school club. And the third we discussed, what was the third one? The third one we discussed is the student council. Now let us come to the more interesting one, that is the dance and the music activities. So I hope that I have already taken this point into notice. So through the dance activities, through the music activities also, you can ensure the participation of learners in your institution. And believe me, when you try to organize such type of the activities, so in one way or other, you are trying to give an opportunity, a stage to the learners where they can show that what good they can do. So that just generalizes, that just gives them an opportunity to excel in other fields also. Then what happens, if they get this type of idea or this type of platform at a very young age, or in the lower classes, uh, in the lower classes, then definitely in the upcoming time they seems to be more confident, and their social life, that affects their social life in a positive way, social life as well as the personal life, in a positive manner. So this dance and the music activities, they are also very very important. Another important activity is the literary activities. Now many a times some of the teachers, some of the school heads, or some of the experts in education, they just count these literary activities just as some other curricular activity, but it is not like that. These literary activities are totally different from the curricular activities, and they actually come under the co-curricular activities. So these literary activities has a great past, right? These literary activities, they are actually organized in many schools across the world, and I hope that this is also organized in your institution also, because these literary activities, they may just include some debates, it may include some public speaking, it may include some allocation, it may include some dramatics, like that, right? So these literary activities, they are basically, they are voluntary in nature, or they may be the individual exercises, or they may be organized in a group also. So these literary activities are very very important. Now, athletics, sports and games. Now this is the most common, And I hope that you are well familiar with all these things, because I hope that in your institutions also, in your school also, the sports, games, athletics, they are organized, and some competition are also being organized in many schools, and the same may be adopted, or you might be working on it, right? So your school principal, your school head might be organizing, or your sports teacher, physical sports teacher, might be organizing such type of the activities. It may be running, it may be bicycling, it may be swimming, it may be anything, right? But all this should be done under the guidance of some coach or some person who is good enough in the sports also. Like a mathematics teacher may be good in sports. Similarly, a language teacher may be good in badminton. Some may be good in football, some may be good in cricket, some may be good in some other local sports, right? So accordingly, the on the part of the teachers, it is important to understand that when our learners and when we ourselves will be healthy, then only we can go for a healthy society. So these athletics, games, and sports, they are also a part and parcel of the co-curricular activities. Now, another important point is the school publications. So there are basically four types of the school publications. One is the school newspaper. You can see here, I have just highlighted this school publication, the school newspaper, then the handbook, the yearbook, and the school magazine. Now, these all four are different from each other. Now, on the one side, when we talk about the school newspaper, what is a school newspaper? It is a newspaper which is circulated, which has circulation only inside the school. Or if your institution is big, quite large, it has more number of learners, it has a good reputation in the locality, then you can develop or design a school newspaper with the help of the learners and with the help of your core team, and may engage more than one school. And that time, this newspaper will have more than one school for the circulation. Similarly, handbook, then you have the yearbook, then you have the school magazine. What is the handbook and the school magazine? These are also the printed circulations. These are also the publications which are in the printed way, and they actually talk about the progress or the objectives that the school has decided, or which the school is just planning in the upcoming future, that yes, this will be conducted in the present session. So this is school handbook. See, what is the school handbook? It will just come on your screen. The school handbook, it's a publication for the large and the medium sized school, right? For large and the medium sized school. Why is it said that it has for large and medium sized school? See, this is the point which I'm trying to suggest. This handbook actually provides the information about the school. So handbook is very important, because if there is no handbook, then the learners, they will not be able to know that what facilities or what assistance is being provided by the school. So handbook is very important. Basically, it talks about the school. That is why it is known as the handbook. Similarly, there is a yearbook. Yearbook is basically for recording the history of the 1 year activity. Like in the year 2023, this year, what is the what is the record of the activities that were organized here? Like in the recent past, we just faced the COVID-19. So in the 2 years of the COVID-19, in 1 year or 2 years of COVID-19, what activities were conducted may be traced out through the school yearbook. Then school magazine is also there. So in the school magazine also, there may be some, what does it contains? The school magazine basically contains the poems, the stories, and the essays by the students as well as by the teachers. So that is the important point, that whenever I say that this is a school co-curricular activity, then it doesn't mean that these co-curricular activities are for only the learners. They are for the learners as well as for the teachers also. Then social activities. I hope that you all are familiar with the importance and the meaning of the social activities. What we do with the society, what we are doing for the society, what society expects from us, and what we can contribute towards the welfare of the society, it comes under the social programs. Like it may be a cleanliness drive, it may be some drive for awareness, it may be something for stop deforestation, stop cutting trees, it may be to make your environment look good, it may be about what is the importance of teaching and learning, and it may be about that what is the importance of school education, right? So anything can be organized when we talk about the social responsibilities of the social school. Then another important point is the house system. Now this house system is very simple, and I hope that in your institutions also and these houses are given the specific names. All right. So in your country, wherever you are, based on some national leaders, based on some national festivals, based on some national animals also, right? Based on some national uh, anything, based on some seasons, based on some national vegetation, based on anything, these houses can be named, and these houses are given some responsibility. See, every house is assigned some duties, one house at a time. For example, in the for the first week, one house may be given the responsibility of maintaining discipline in the school. So these are some of the co-curricular activities which may be organized, or kept which may be organized and which may be kept in the priority list of your institution, right? Then there are some miscellaneous activities also. What are these miscellaneous activities? These miscellaneous activities are totally to be decided by the school head. Like your school may organize some program to honor some person from the society, some local authority, or maybe some leader, maybe some person who has contributed, or maybe some alumni of the school, some student of the institution who has done good in the recent past, maybe in the sports, maybe in the drawing, maybe in some literary work, anything, right? So these miscellaneous activities, they may be organized, right? So this was a list, this was a detailed talk about the variety of things that you can organize when you have to decide, or when you have to plan out the organization of co-curricular activities in your institutions. So there are some which are organized every day, like assembly, and there are some points, some activities are there which are organized once in a year only, right? So this you have to look upon. Now, what is the spirit of the school? When we say the spirit of the school, what is that? It is basically the atmosphere of the school. In what way, or in which spirit you are going to take the co-curricular activities. So as I have told you already, that Jones has given 4 stages of development of co-curricular activities. Jones has said that at first, these co-curricular activities, they are ignored, they are not accepted at all, but later on their acceptability, it increases, and finally the teachers, they understand that yes, the co-curricular activities, they need to be organized. And dear participants, one important thing here is that the good school spirit does not happen by accident. See why I have highlighted it. The good school spirit does not happen by accident, it must be developed. What does it mean that it must be developed? It must be developed because unless and until the teachers themselves, they are not able to understand that what is the meaning, or what is the actual meaning, what is the wider meaning, what is the wider scope of these co-curricular activities, they will not try further to organize such type of the activities. So for those teachers who are not very much convenient with the co-curricular activities, they must be taken into confidence, they must be given assistance by the other group of the teachers who are good enough in organizing such type of the programs. Like if you're in an institution, there are 25 or maybe 50 teachers. If you have 50 teachers, then it is very common, or it is very simple to understand that out of 50, 15 or 10 may be the people who are not interested in organizing such type of activities. What may be the reasons that they are not interested in organizing such type of the activities? The reason is that to organize these activities, it requires a lot of patience, it requires a lot of work on the part of the teacher, it requires basically a cooperation, it requires a teamwork, a team management, right? So if 15 out of 50 teachers, like 25% of the teachers, they are not interested in organizing such type of the programs, then the rest 75% teachers, or the rest of the staff, what you should do, you should not keep them alone, you should try to inculcate and they may accept further in the near future that yes, such type of the activities, they need to be organized for the welfare of the teachers, for the welfare of the learners, as well as for the welfare of the institution. Okay, now dear participants, here we have some activity. This is another important good feature of the activity, which is given in this module by Indira Gandhi National Open University, that you can make a list of co-curricular activities that are introduced in your school. So as I told you that you have assembly, you have literary activities, you have sports, you have drama, you have some other things, you have some publications like a school academic calendar, it may be a school magazine. So whatsoever you are, you need to you just need to develop a list of such co-curricular activities, right? Now again, this is the time to check your progress. There are two questions. It talks about the types of the activities that come under co-curricular. So this I have already discussed in detail. And another important point is, what do you understand by the school spirit? So what is the school spirit? The school spirit is basically the feeling or the atmosphere of the school to accept or to reject the co-curricular activities. That's why it has been said that the school spirit cannot be developed overnight. To develop it, you need to create that environment. Okay, so I think that we have discussed it enough. Again, I would like to take a few questions from this, or otherwise I will go for the last section of this unit 3. Then after that we will go for unit number 4, right? So let me just go for any queries you have. Yeah, any questions from your side? Let me see in the chat box also. Okay, in the chat box there is no question. Can I move ahead, or you want me to explain something else? Can I move ahead, or you want to ask me some question? Yeah, dear participants.
Please, some of our colleagues have their hands up.
Pardon, I'm not able to understand. Yeah, can I move ahead, or you have some question?
Please, I was saying that someone has raised their hand. I think they
Okay,
want to ask a question.
okay, okay. Someone has raised hand. Okay, yeah, two people have raised hand. Yeah, please. Yeah, please just ask your question, Miss or Mr. Ibrahim and Remindako. Yeah, any questions, please? I can see two people have.
No, no, no question, bro. No question.
Okay,
Just go ahead.
okay, okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Though I will take your questions, right, a little later if you will have. Okay, now is the time to talk about managing the co-curricular programs. So by far we have talked in detail about the co-curricular activities. Now we need to understand that how we can manage the co-curricular programs, how these co-curricular programs will be managed. Because once you have the idea that yes, this is the co-curricular program, then the second point or the next step is that how to manage these co-curricular programs. And along with that, we'll also try to understand that who will manage these co-curricular programs. So to understand this, we need to understand a few principles that give us an idea that yes, how these programs can be managed. So there are some general principles that are given below, right? So what is the first principle? I will just go for the principles. The co-curricular activities, they should be properly related to the whole school environment. This is the important feature, that if your school, now it depends upon the school to school, this is different for from school to school. Like in your locality or in your surroundings, if you have 3 schools or you have 5 schools or you have more than 10 schools, so each school is different from another school. Each school has different objective, right? So whatsoever is the nature of the school, according to that these co-curricular programs may be organized. It is not necessary that everywhere the sports activities may be organized in one manner only, right? So if you have good facilities, then you will organize accordingly. If you do not have that good facility, then you will organize some activities which do not require much financial assistance. Second important point is the co-curricular program, they should be mixed up. They should be created in harmony with the curricular program in the school. This I have told you in the very beginning, that curricular and co-curricular programs, they are not to be seen from different lenses. They are not to be seen from different viewpoints. They are actually interrelated and interdependent to each other. So curricular is important as well as co-curricular is important, or you can say vice versa, that co-curricular is important and similarly curricular is also important. So it is commendable, it is advisable that you need to encourage the diversity in the activities, right? So how this diversity may be encouraged? This diversity may be encouraged only when you have good creative teachers, and based on your experience you can design such type of the activities. Another important point is objectives. Objectives of the co-curricular program. So these objectives of the co-curricular program, they should also be linked, or they should also be derived from the objectives of the regular curriculum. So that's what again I'm suggesting you the same thing which I have repeatedly told you, that curricular and co-curricular programs, they are to be seen in a with the same lenses, or they have to be kept together so that we may achieve the objectives of both, that is curricular as well as the co-curricular activities. Another important point is they should be fully appreciated. The potentialities of the co-curricular program, they should be fully appreciated. If someone just go for a debate that whether these activities, curricular as well as co-curricular, do they have something to do with the overall development of the learners, then the answer is yes. The co-curricular activities, they also play a very important role in the overall development of the learners, right? Another important point is the individual differences of the learners. Now every individual cannot be engaged in all the type of the activities. So if you're in an institution, suppose you have 300 students or 200 students or maybe 1000 students, then all of them, they cannot be included, or they cannot be forced to participate in similar type of the activities. It depends upon their individual difference, that in what activity, in which activity they are better, or in which activity they can perform better. So some might be good in singing, some might be good in some drama, some might be good in some administration, what is required for them, some may be good in some cleanliness, some may be good in football, some may be good in drawing, some may be good in some public speaking, right? Accordingly you have to design the activities. Then they all should be encouraged, this I have already discussed with you. And any new co-curricular activity should be started only if it is required. You should certainly not go for other type of the activities in just one go. Suppose you go or you visit some school in your surrounding, or maybe in some neighboring country, and you have just realized that yes, you have one more co-curricular activity. Now that should not be started, or that should be started only if it is required, and financially your school, if it permits that. Otherwise what will happen, if you have number of teachers, they will have different ideas. If you are trying as a school head, you are trying to sustain all the different ideas, then you will be in a problem, because finance means availability of resources, also play a very important role in deciding an activity. Okay. Now, another important point is accounting and managing, accounting for and managing the finances. This was the important point. So for this, I would like to suggest you that if you have some a sponsor at a local level or maybe at a national level, then you can just go for that. You can just manage that also. So what will that help you out? That will help you out in securing the expenditures of your school. That will, you will be in a strong position to organize different type of the activities if you have some sponsor. So if you have some sponsor, then just try to go for different type of activities. If you do not have some sponsor, again you can go for different type of activities, but try to keep that under the budget limitation that your school permits. Another important point is the age group, the developmental stage, and the nature of the people. So what is the age group of the learners? This also is to be kept in mind. Otherwise what will happen, the students, the learners of lower grade, they cannot be permitted, or they cannot be insisted to participate in some activities which require some extra effort, because that is meant only for the learners at a higher grade. So these are the different points which we have discussed. So this includes the finance, availability of finance, availability of a sponsor, what is the individual difference of the learners, what is the expertise of the teachers, whether it is required or not. So these are the different points that you have to keep in mind for organizing the co-curricular activities in your institution. Because if proper planning is done, what is expected to learn, what is expected to achieve through this unit number 3 of this PG diploma in self in school leadership and management, right? Then only you will be able to develop desirable citizenship values and virtues among your learners. Otherwise what will happen, otherwise you will be engaged in organizing some fruitless programs, some of the programs which will not give you either satisfaction, and that will also not be very beneficial for your learners. Okay, so this was a brief discussion, or you can say a detailed discussion, in fact, uh, under the topic planning of co-curricular activities, which is very important to understand, especially for those who are interested in school leadership and management. And I hope that this module this unit number 3, which is designed by the prestigious Indira Gandhi National Open University, will give you an idea that how different things can be inculcated, how different things can be included, and can be better understood when you will apply those things in your institution. The last topic here is the school head responsibility. But since I have discussed it with you earlier, that what is the responsibility of the school head in organizing or in planning the co-curricular activities. So I think that if you will have some question, then we will go for this aspect also. Otherwise, I have already discussed it with you. One case study has also been mentioned here. You can go for this case study after the end of this session, and this unit will give you an idea that how, when, why, where these questions will be answered, that what is the meaning of co-curricular activities, how they can be planned, how they can be executed, what is the importance of organizing these co-curricular activities, who is responsible for these co-curricular activities, right? What is the importance uh, of curricular as well as the co-curricular activities, and finally how the development, how the holistic development of the learners as well as the teachers also, I will say, may be ensured by organizing such type of the co-curricular activities. So you will just definitely get a detailed idea, a detailed answer of all these questions once you will try to understand these aspects what I have discussed with you. Still, if you have some questions, please raise your hands or ask your questions. Otherwise, if you uh, feel that we can go for the last unit, that is unit number 4, then we will switch to unit number 4. Yeah. Any questions, any queries, please? Otherwise, we will go for unit number 4, and unit number 4 is planning for teaching aids and multimedia programs. Okay. But before that, let me see in the chat box if there are some questions, or I will just invite my dear participant, Mr. Remindako or Mr. Ibrahim, Mr. James, and Peter, Austin, Sophia, any one of you. If you have some queries, then uh, please raise your questions. Or otherwise, we may move to unit number 4. Yeah, please suggest me what is to be done.
I think we can move to unit number 4.
Unit number 4. Okay. So I hope that it was a good interaction with unit number 3, where you raise some queries also, and ultimately you will go with the module that will give you another idea, clear cut idea that how uh, these activities they may be organized. Okay, so as one of the participants has suggested to move to unit number 4, and after the end of unit number 4, we will take for some queries, some questions. In between also you may ask. So the unit number 4 is again very interesting. This is again about the planning, but here we are planning about the teaching aids. And you know what are the teaching aids? Teaching aids are basically the assistive procedures, that how the teaching can be improved. Whenever we use some aids, it is simply to ensure that how the thing can be improved, how the process can be improved. And the multimedia programs, you know that we are living in an era, we are living in a century where we are talking more and more about technology. So this unit in number 4 is basically about the technology and why it is important for teachers to understand and talk about technology. First, let me talk about the structure. We will have a brief introduction here of this unit. Then we will talk about objectives, and then you can see this have highlighted here with the red and the yellow color, the teaching aids and the multimedia packages. We will talk about the multimedia packages, that what are the teaching aids and the media programs, what is the psychology behind these programs, what is the need and importance of these programs, these audiovisual aids, what are the effective teaching aids, what are the problems when we are using these teaching aids, and what is their classification. I think that mic of some participant is on. Can you please mute it? uh, yeah, can you please mute it for the comfort of others? Okay, thank you so much. Okay. So then lastly, we will talk about the mass media and education. We'll talk about the use of radio, television, and I'm sure that you all are very well aware of using these things, that how radio, television, and films they can be used for teaching and learning process. Finally, we'll talk about what is the role of the school head in planning and management of the teaching aids. So this is the basic structure of this particular unit. So before we start, dear learners, dear teachers, let me give you an idea that uh, wherever we are living, right? In any continent, in any country across the world, if we are talking about the 21st century, if we are talking about the present decade, if we are talking about the year 2023, then one thing comes to our mind very clear cut, that we are living in an era of science and technology. We are living in a period of time where we cannot expect that development will continue without the use of information and communication technology. And since we are the teachers, we are involved in the teaching learning process, right? In different manners. Maybe some are teaching science, some are teaching languages, some are involved in physical education, some may be a drawing teacher. Whatsoever subject you are teaching in your institution, either in maybe some of you are from Nigeria, some of you, may I know that which country you belongs to? I have the information that we have participants from 3 or 4 different countries. Some are from Nigeria, others are from, is there someone from Ethiopia also?
I'm from Ghana.
Okay, from Ghana also, right? So whether you are in Ghana, you are in Nigeria, you are in some other country, any country you live in, either not only in African continent but also in other countries, other continent also, right? Like I am linked with you through from India, right? So we all have the common opinion or the common idea that technology is very widespread. Technology plays a very important role, and this is only because of the technology that today we are sitting here in this session of 2 hours to understand that what we can do, what new we can do in the field of school leadership and management. So most of the countries throughout the world, right? And this is not the thing which we know today only. We are familiar with this fact for last many decades, and especially in the last decade and in the present decade. So with the day by day, we are in a position, or we understand, we have accepted this fact, you also and me also, that technology plays a very important role in the teaching learning process, and it will be better for us as a teacher and for our learners also, for the forthcoming generations to accept and to get the idea that with the technology, with the science and technology, with the new means of science and technology, with the introduction of mass media, we can elaborate, or we can improve, or we can make it more extensive. We can shift from the narrow path to the wider path. So this use of technology, this is the important thing which we have to discuss here. In the previous session, in the previous 1 hour, we talked about co-curricular activities. So when after the closure of this session, when you will think about unit number 3 and unit number 4, or you will just go with the points what you have understood today, you may just create a link also, that how unit number 3 is connected or linked with unit number 4 in terms of technology. Like you may organize some co-curricular activities, right, through the use of internet, through the use of mass media also. So this mass media plays a very important role. Basically technology and the mass media, it acts as a catalyst for the educational changes. This is also mentioned here. It acts as a catalyst. It acts as a positive catalyst, right? It improves the procedures, the educational procedures. It brings the desired and the necessary educational changes at a rapid pace. Why at a rapid pace? Because I just gave you the example. Suppose you want to connect somewhere from different part of the country, maybe even after this program, you would just want to connect with the Indira Gandhi National Open University for some other courses, or for some asking your queries. Then you have some LMS also. You have some other opportunities also. You may just write a mail also. You may connect through different means also. So in brief, I just want to say, what I want to say is that in the today's world, the mass media and the educational technology, and it acts as a very important source of teaching aids. So these teaching aids, media programs, right, this we have to understand. So these are the objectives also of this particular unit. See, I have highlighted it with the red color, the nature and importance of these things. Now, what is the psychology of using audiovisual aids? Because if we are not familiar with the psychology, psychology of whom? Psychology of teachers, psychology of managers, psychology of school heads, and psychology of the learners, right? Then the problems which are faced in the preparation and use of the teaching aids, because the teaching aids, they are not always available hand to hand. Many a times you have to design some type of the teaching aids also, or if they are already designed, then in case of some problem, in case of some situation, you have to operate it by your own. Then what is its importance, its need, this we will discuss. And finally, the role of the school head. So this is the brief structure of the unit that we have to discuss here. Okay, so let us go with the content just one by one, and let us talk about the teaching aids and the multimedia packages. What is the role of technology or the technological media in the education? Now, there are different meanings or different connotations. There are different terms which we use interchangeably. Sometimes we say audiovisual aids, sometimes we say educational communication technology, sometimes we say it is the AV media, sometimes we say learning resources or the instructional media, educational media. So, whatsoever term you are using, it doesn't make any difference, because basically it talks about the introduction and the use of technology in the field of education. Right now, earlier the more familiar terms, right, audiovisual material, it was used, but nowadays we are using the new word. This I have highlighted with the red color, right? Educational technology or the instructional technology. Why this audiovisual material is replaced by technology, by education technology? Because with technology we are more familiar that technology changes day by day, sometimes within an hour, right? In morning there is some technology, and by evening you will get some advanced technology in that area or in that field, right? So none of you will disagree with me when I say that technology is ever changing, and it changes at a rapid pace. It is ever changing and ever fasting change, right? It goes for change and change, and those changes are actually the improvements or the modifications which are required as per the requirement of its users. Because earlier you used to send mail, right? And nowadays also you are sending the mails, but there is a lot of difference in that. Earlier also you used to use the computers or the desktops and the laptops. Nowadays also you have the different things. The technology has improved. You may use your mobile phones and even your iPads for the same purpose. So this is the interesting thing that we have all about in technology. So that is why it has been mentioned, or it is a promising feature, that technology word is more prominent, or technology word is more meaningful or more utilized when we talk about the technology in education. So that is why education technology is a more familiar term. Now, to understand the nature of the teaching aids or nature of these uh, audiovisual aids or the education technology. So when we talk about the media, the audiovisual media, electronic media, basically all these aids are sensory in nature. Mean they just impact, they just make an impact on the senses, on the sense organs of the learners. Like they attract our eyes, they attract our ears, they attract our rest of the sensory organs. And then with those sensory organs, they just try to reinforce the learning procedures. Because it naturally happens that when you are looking on a screen, right, and you find something interesting in that, then it draws out your attention. Whereas if the same thing is being discussed by a teacher in the classroom without using some screen, then what happens? Because of the short span of memory, you are not able to focus on that content with the same temperament. You just start forgetting at the same point of time. So what your teacher has said in the first 15 minutes cannot be remembered by you unless and until some presentation is going on. What is the reason? Because in the with the use of audiovisual aids, with the use of technology, more sensory organs, they are actually involved in that. That is why we say that these audiovisual aids, they are also known as the multi-sensory materials. So it is very important to understand. Let me just go ahead. Let me just go back where we started. We are talking about teaching aids and the multimedia packages. What are the multimedia packages? Packages are basically meant for those medias which include more than one, right? And when we say more than one, then to understand more than one media, like presentation is going on, then some special features are also going on, then in between you have some audios also, some videos also. So to understand all these things, you need to apply multi-sensory, you need to be active multi-sensory also, right? Means more than use of more than one sense organs. Now, with this interesting introduction, let me come to the brief history of the use of the audiovisual aids. This also you need to understand, because when you will be preparing your assignments, you will find such type of the questions to design, to just answer, right? So it was first done by Erasmus. Way back about 600 years ago, it was done by Erasmus. Erasmus said that memorization is not a very good technique. Rather, he said that the interest of the learners, it can only be managed, it can only be done when you show them some pictures or some other visuals. So that was only an idea given by Erasmus. Then came Comenius. Comenius in the in 1592 to 1670, this was his era. John Amos Comenius, he just designed a book. Name has been mentioned here. He also talked about the use of the sensory organs, that how the sense organs, they play a very important role when we talk about teaching and learning. Then Rousseau was again a philosopher. He also talked about the need of pictures and the other play materials. So I'm not saying that these philosophers or these educationists in way back 300, 500, or 600 years back, they just talked about use of multimedia. No, it is not like that. But they were the people who first talked about that how the sensory organs, they are to be involved. See, I have again uh, move the screen so that you may again go through the names. The first one was Erasmus, who was a Dutch theologian, he was a writer. Second was Comenius, right? Third one was Rousseau, and the fourth one uh, also focused, who was Pastology. Pastology was again a philosopher. He carry forwarded the Rousseau's theory, and he worked upon that, and he assisted, he further insisted that yes, use of sensory organs must be done, because instruction is based on sense perception. So these four or five people, they really contributed enough in going from the plain and simple media, simple text, to the audiovisual aids. Right now, in the first century, during the first quarter of the 20th century, Nelson, he also talked about visual education. Similarly, there were other people. So the last century has witnessed, the last century has seen more than 300 people who have contributed differently in the field of mass media education, right? But we need to take a few only, and for that, we will talk about Eric Ashby of 1967, who talked about four revolutions in education. He talked about four revolutions, and this is very important to understand this. He said education from home to school. So earlier it was given only in home. What the parents, they used to talk, that was only the education. But formally, some organizations were opened and they were named as the school. Second is written word as a tool of education. Earlier it was only the word which was said only, verbal, but then it came in the form of some writing. Then invention and printing of use of the books. Then printing is started, and the last one is use of the electronic media. So this definition, this explanation of four revolutions in education by Eric Ashby, it has its importance. It is very important to understand this, right? It talks about from, again I repeat it, from home to school, from writing as a tool, then printing of books, and the last one is the use of the mass media. Okay, so I hope that this section or this content will be very clear to you, where we discuss that what is actually the meaning of mass media, why is it important, what is its universal acceptability, and why it is a talk, why it is a common talk among the educationists or the school teachers or the school leaders from all across the world, that what is the importance of electronic media. So these four revolutions of SB, they will also give you an idea that what is the importance of mass media in the current scenario, or in the present century. Now, two terms you need to give which are synonymous with teaching aids. I hope that you will be able to answer this question and some difficult questions also. And what is the second question? Let me see. Second question is definition of audiovisual. There are many definitions of audiovisual aids. Now, which appeals you to you most? Which is the definition which you like the most? And what is the reason? Again, this question is based on your perception. You may just answer it as per your thought, as per as your line of thinking, right? And the last question is, what are the four revolutions according to the Eric Hesby? I hope that such type of the questions, they may be definitely answered by you in detail along with certain logics, right? Because I have already discussed this in detail, that what are the four revolutions which Eric Ashby talked about, from home to school, then writing, then printing, and last is the mass media. Now, dear participants, is the time to move a little bit towards the educational psychology. Now, this is very easy section where we need to understand only the simple ideas, that what is the psychology, what acts behind the use of teaching aids and the audiovisual aids, what actually works behind that, how the human mind reacts to the teaching aids and the audiovisual aids. Now, again, I will not take much of time to deliver my expertise over this topic, because you all know that if we have five sense organs, if we have something to taste, something to touch, something to smell, something to hear, and something to sight, you all know that what we see, it is mentioned in this table also, right? So what we see, what we have inside, 83% of that is uh, traced out by our brain. 83% can be recovered as such. Whereas what we taste, we will just forget the taste in a few seconds, or maybe in just 1 minute only. What we touch, we may just forget it a little later. What we smell, again, we just forget, or it just comes, it just gets down from our mind. What we hear, it is in our mind, right? But that also up to a certain percentage. But what we see, that is the reason that in the previous session on 3rd of February, as well as today also, that is on 10th of February, I just presented before you the modules which are designed and developed by Indira Gandhi National Open University, so that you may just learn 83% of what is being discussed here. Otherwise, what will happen if I will show you, if I will not show you the document, then what will happen? You will only listen, and further, most of the things they will get down from your mind. But since this document is available over internet, or it will be provided to you uh, by the university, right? So you will have this document forever, and whenever you will repeat, or when you will open, or when you will scroll down through this document, you will just get an idea that what we learned on the particular day of 3rd and 10th February. Again, this is another example, that what, how much percent we hear, our mind keeps the record of what we hear, what we see, what we say. So this is the record of these things. And there is a popular saying also, that when I hear, I forget, when I see something, then I remember, but when I do it, then I understand it. So the most important aspect, or the most important part of mass media is just by doing it, right? Suppose we are sitting here for an online session, so unless and until you and me are good enough in dealing with the technological, with the technical implications of this online session, we will not be in a position to join this particular session. So that is why when you do, you understand. Okay, so we have successfully completed the first part of this presentation, where we discussed about that what is the meaning of mass media, and what is the meaning of the audiovisual aids, or you can say the modern word, modern terminology, that is the education technology, or you can also say instructional technology. Now, in brief, we will talk about the need and importance of the audiovisual aid. That what is the need, why is it required, and why is it important? And when we talk about its need, its importance, then again we have certain questions in our mind, then why it is required, why is it required, right? How it can be managed, what is the importance, do everyone in the world has such type of facilities? If yes, then how is it possible? If no, then what else can be done? So all these questions may be answered only when you will look into the use as well as the advancement of mass media in education, especially in education, right? And further, some of the experts like Edgar Dale, which I have highlighted here in the yellow color, they have beautifully defined that the audiovisual materials, they are important because they actually give us a concrete basis for conceptual thinking. They give rise to the meaningful concept, meaningful association, and hence they offer the best antidote for the disease of verbalism. This is the one of the best definition that has been given by one expert, that is Edgar Dale, in the field of instructional technology. He just says that these audiovisual materials, they are actually the best antidote of the verbalism. So if as a teacher, if you are presenting something, if you are going for presentations, then definitely you are contributing more towards the effective teaching learning and towards the development of competency among the learners. Why is it so? Because when they see what the teacher has shared with them, then they uh, understand better. Now for that, what you need to be, you need to be the good motivators, right? You need to supplement and complement the verbal instructions. What is the meaning of this supplement and complement? The meaning of this supplement and complement is that if you are showing something, if you are showing some parts of the human body, how the human eye works, human digestive system in science, in trigonometry or in arithmetic or in algebra, you are showing some formula, you are showing some Pythagoras theorem, right? Similarly, in languages, you are talking about grammar. Then not only you should show something, but also you should give the relevant examples. So you need to complement and supplement what you say, and that can be done only with the use of mass media. Then clear images, you can use clear images, right? Not vague and other type of the images. Then vicarious experience, first hand experience. Now these experiences, they can be given to the learners in certain situations. It can not be given many times, because there are many things which cannot be done directly, right? Like you have to show that how swimming occurs, or what is the buoyancy principle when you're teaching science. Then it is not possible to arrange for a river or something like that in the classroom. This is not possible actually, for even for a teacher or for someone else also. So what you can do, you can go for some vicarious experience by just showing them some model, or by just some arranging some mass media activities. Then variety. Variety is another important feature, because if you have a variety of activities, mass media experiences, then definitely your teaching is going to be, your teaching learning going to be more effective. Then freedom. Freedom of what? Freedom of choice of the audiovisual aid. Freedom of expression, right? Freedom to express that whether they have understood it or what they want to, even if they want to comment on that, that yes, this was good and this audiovisual aid was not perfectly good, then you need to give them the freedom that whether they are able to understand it clearly or not. Like another important point is opportunities to handle and manipulate. Sometimes it is necessary to handle the apparatuses. So this is talking about that point. Another important feature is the retention. Then what is the retention? Retention is basically the how much time they are engaged, they are retended towards your teaching learning. This is the meaning of the retention. Then maxims or the principle of teaching. Now you know what are the principles of teaching, that we move from concrete to abstract, we move from known to unknown, we move from learning by doing, right? So based, it should be based on this one. Then helpful in attracting the attention. So these are the very small points or the minute details that you should keep in mind when you are trying to develop or trying to uh, engage your learners with some mass media. Right? Helpful in fixing up new learning. So it should also go towards new learning. What new the learners they can understand? Because if it is new only, then only the mass media or the appliances or the apparatuses, they will attract the mind of the learners. Otherwise, they will get bored. They will not be attracted towards the old equipments that you will show them through the mass media, right? Then saving of energy and time, that is again very easy and very not very complicated to understand. Realistic audiovisual aids, they must be realistic. It should not be like that you are giving an example of universe and you are just showing them something which is not related to the universe. They should get a feel that yes, the teacher has uh, uh, tried the best to give them the idea of very closer towards the originality. Then vividness, it should be different, variety should be there. Then individual differences should also be taken into consideration. Healthy classroom interaction, that should also be there. because all the learners, they should be promoted, they should be given the opportunity to interact. Otherwise what will happen, only some smart learners, only some good learners, only some gifted learners, they will be able to understand the procedures. The rest will remain only the observers, they will just remain the silent observers only. Then what is the reach? Reaching to the remote areas, promotion of scientific temper, development of higher faculties, right? Reinforcement, positive transfer of learning and training. So these are some of the important points which are very essential to understand by a school teacher or by a school leader, so that he or she may get an idea that whether the mass media assistance that is being planned and being is to be delivered by them in the near future to the learners, whether it will work appropriately or not. So if these things are kept in the mind, that whether promotion of scientific temper will be there, whether it will address to the reinforcement, whether it will be easier to understand, whether it will be interesting, whether it will be close to the originality, then you will get an idea that what should be used in the classroom and what should be avoided, right? So if you have listened to me carefully, then definitely you will be able to answer these questions, not now, little later, on the psychological benefits of using teaching aids, how psychology is being affected if good teaching aids are used. And second is the note on the advantages of the use of teaching aid in the classroom. If you are planning to use teaching aids in the classroom, then what will be the advantages? Advantage of whom? Advantage of you, because it will save your time and energy. Advantage of the learners, because they will get the original experiences, right? So it will be advantages for the whole society. So I hope that you will be able to answer these questions. Okay. Right. Let me take some questions if you have. Otherwise, I will move to the last section of this discussion. Right. Yeah. Any questions, please? Any observation, any questions, or any queries? You may just unmute yourself. Or otherwise, I will move to the last section, that is the effective teaching aids. Yeah. Any one of you, please? Mr. Kwadu or Mr. Adu? Any questions? Or may I move ahead? Should I move ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I hope that you are getting the things that I'm sharing with you and what I am giving you with the relevant examples. Now, this is about the effective teaching aids. Effective teaching aids. Effective teaching aids. What are the effective teaching aids and how you can say that these teaching aids are effective? This is very simple to understand, right? They should be meaningful, purposeful. It should be accurate. It should be simple, not very expensive. It should be appropriate in size, up to date. It should be easily portable, appropriate to the mental level of the learners, and it should motivate the. So these are very simple points or very simple characteristics which are required to decide the teaching aid. That what will be the teaching aid, right? So the principles. Let us talk about the principles which are helpful in taking into consideration these teaching aid. The first principle is the principle of selection. So what does this talk about? This principle of selection, it talks about that you will select a teaching aid or a mass media program only when it is okay, only when it is good enough for the learners, age wise, their grade wise, and the other appropriate characteristics are fulfilled. Otherwise, what you will do, you will not select, you will keep that aside and will go only for the selection of the teaching aid which you find the best. Remember one thing, you need not to go for selection of a teaching aid which is only working or which is only satisfactory in nature. You should go only for the selection of the teaching aid or the mass media or the audiovisual aid which is good enough, right? So it should have some educational value, it should be a true representative. So selection is very important. Like you go to a mall or a supermarket and you just go for selection of your dresses, selection of some daily life apparatuses, selection of a new car, selection of a new bike, selection of something new, right? So you keep in mind certain things. Similarly, when you are selecting an audiovisual aid, you need to keep in mind certain points. Second point is principle of preparation. This is another important principle which suggests that the preparation, how it is prepared, whether it will be possible to prepare it, or you will find some difficulty later on. What will be the things which will be required while preparing it? These things are to be kept in mind. So this is the principle of preparation, right? You should design, or you should select only that teaching aid or that audiovisual aid which you can prepare in the near future. Then physical control, whether the physical control is easy or it is safe or not, this also is to be kept in mind, because if it is very much complex in nature, then you will try to avoid that particular audiovisual aid. Then proper presentation, how it is to be presented. Nowadays you have different applications, you have different means of presentation, but this presentation of teaching aid, proper presentation is very essential. So what is the size of this audiovisual aid, whether you are acquainted with that or not, whether you will be able to manipulate it later on or not, how it can be displayed. So these are the things which you have to consider when you are going for principle of the proper presentation. Otherwise what will happen, you will have the audiovisual aid, the mass media program, but somehow you will not be able to present it before your learners. Then the last two principles are principle of response and principle of evaluation. What is the principle of response? Principle of response is whether the learners, they will be able to respond actively or not. And similarly, the evaluation means whether continuous evaluation of that particular mass media program, audiovisual material, will be done or not. This also you have to keep in mind. So these are some 5 or 6 principles which are to be kept in mind when you are deciding to select or to design a audiovisual program for the learners. Maybe teaching of mathematics, maybe for science, maybe for physical education, maybe for drawing, maybe for languages, anything. Like, again, you have some queries, some questions that are presented here, and you need to answer them later on. Some attributes of effective teaching aids, this I have already discussed, and it also talks about the principles of presentation. So I have already discussed with you some of the principles. You need to answer those questions little later when you will get the spare time. Now let us talk about some problems in the use of teaching aids. What are the problems? There are many problems which comes in the way of a teacher when we are going for the selection and the use of the teaching aids. The first one is the apathy of the teachers. When the teacher is not convinced, then this problem arises, right? If the mass media or the teaching aid is not very much useful for the teacher, right, then it causes the wastefulness of the mass media program, and the teacher himself or herself find very himself indifferent, as well as the learners also, they are found indifferent towards that, which creates to what, which leads towards the ineffectiveness of the aid, because once you are not able to operate it properly, it will bring boredom to you, and if you are feel bored with that, then the uh, aid, then the audiovisual aid will be ineffective for you. Then financial hurdles will be there, right? Then power supply, because some of the devices, some of the audiovisual aids are there which require continuous power supply. So if there is no regular power supply, then what will happen? Then in that case, you have to face this problem. Then need for training, if it requires a lot of training, then again you will face some problem. Language is another difficulty, so that should be in the language, right? Not necessarily it is always available in language English. It should be in the language which you find more comfortable. Like, the language which I find easier to work upon with myself as well as for my learners is to be kept, is to be used while designing or selecting a proper audiovisual aid. And last point is catering to the local needs. If it is catering to the local needs, then it is fine. If it is not, then you have to rethink upon it, right? So that improper selection of aids or media may not be done. So this is an important part, that what are the principles of selection of teaching aid or the audiovisual aid, and what are the problems which arise when you go for selection or designing of audiovisual aid or the audiovisual media. Now, dear learners, let us come to another important topic, which is the classification of the teaching aid. And when we go for this classification, you will find that it's very easy to understand this classification. Here we are. See, this is basically a table. This is the first classification. projected and non-projected aids. So this is the projected aids: films, film strips, opaque projector where the cursor is moving. These are the projected aids, right? And these are the non-projected aids. These are the non-projected aids, means which cannot be projected. Means radio cannot be projected. That is why it is non-projected. Models, sometimes they may be projected, sometimes they may not, right? Television, television itself is not a projected aid, right? Similarly, activity aids, computer instruction, dramatics, experimentation, field trips, these are all the non-project. So first classification is based on projection and non-projection, and the second classification is audio materials, visual materials, and audio visual materials. So this also you will find very interesting. These are the audio materials like language laboratories, radio is there, sound distribution system is there, whereas visual materials are charts, drawings, exhibit, film strip, flashcards. Just go through this one. I will just give you a few seconds, and then you will get an idea that we have two types of classification. This was the previous classification, which was based on projected and non-projected aids. Let me again show it on the screen. This is the first classification, classification number one, based on the projection, whether the aid can be, audiovisual aid can be projected or not. So projected and non-projected. This is the first one, right? And let us come to the second one. Let me just move the screen, install the screen. The first one, just take a few seconds to observe. And then comes the second one: audio materials, visual materials, and the audio visual materials, right? So we have two classifications based on the nature of the audiovisual materials, or based on the nature of the materials of the teaching aids, right? Whether they are audio nature, visual nature, or the audiovisual both. So one interesting thing in that, you will find certain things which are common to one or two categories, or they may be common in most of the categories. Like when we talk about use of internet, use of computers, so computers may be used for different purposes. Sometimes it may be used for audio purpose, sometimes it may be used for video purpose, and many times it may be used for the audio visual purpose also. Now we have another classification, that is the third classification, which is hardware and software in teaching aids. Now this hardware and software approach is very much known to you. What is hardware approach? Like we have computers, or when we have some devices, the devices which we can motion pictures, overhead projector, radio, tape recorders, projectors, teaching machines, all these can be repaired, all these can be seen with the eyes. So that is why this is known as the hardware approach. Whereas what is the software approach? Software approach is basically the inner part or the programming of the hardwares. Like what are the examples of the software approach? Software approach are basically the books, the magazines, the educational games. These are the part of the software which we can not directly interact with. Rather, we can just go through them and then understand that what actually is it, right? So this is the difference between hardware and software approach. Then fourth classification is big media and the little media. What is big media? Computer and television is the big media, whereas radio and film strips, they are the little media. So this fourth classification is about the size of the media. And the last classification is most important. That is why I have mentioned here for comment. It was again given by the Edgar Dale. He was a pioneer, and he just wrote a book, Methods. What he came with this cone of experience. Let me just reduce the size so that you may just look upon this in one go. This is the cone of the experience, right? Cone of experience. What is this cone of experience? Just have a look on the screen. You will find the verbal words. He just designed a cone, a three-sided triangle, where he discussed, or where he emphasized, that this three-sided cone, or this cone of experience, is actually responsible for the understanding of the content in the modern scenario. So this cone given by Edgar Dale, it is very important. So this is the classification number 5. This is known as the Bayes hierarchical cone of experience. This is very important, right? So that's why I'm just scrolling the screen again in front of you. It talks about that how the experiences can be gained. So sometimes we get less experiences, sometimes we get more experiences. So based on this less and more experience, direct experience, this cone has been designed. That is why it is known as the cone of experience. This cone is known as the cone of experience. See, this is written here, cone of experience. So verbal words, they give us very less experience. Then the chalkboard, white colored chalk, charts, they give us more experience. That is why this column, this block is more wider. Then display board, they just give us more experience. That is why it is further broadened. Then epidioscope and other things. So you will see from top to bottom, the experience goes on. So that is why it is in this shape. So on the top, there is less experience, and on the lower side at the bottom, we have more experience. So this cone is this way. On the top, there is less experience. On the bottom, the experiences becomes more and more, right? So the television and the other things you will find here where I have highlighted the screen, the experiences, they are vast. We have more experiences because when we go through a motion picture in some projected aid or in some television or in some other thing, right, on some other screen, then we get a good idea that what actually is going about. Okay, so now dear learners, dear participants, we are coming to the close of this session, and what we have to discuss here is about the things which are you are familiar with, like radio, television, films, and press. So I will not take a lot of time to discuss here what actually radio is, because you as well as we all are well familiar that what and how the radio works, what actually is it, how television works, what are films and what are press. But I will just give you a new idea that how these things, how this mass media can be used in education. So for radio, for television, you will see that generally this is used only for the entertainment purpose. But when we talk about use of radio, television, and films in education, we need to understand only one common principle or only one thing, that these things, they can be used in some remote areas or even in some areas which are well developed, and inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom, as a means of giving instruction, as a means of communication, like through a television, through a radio, through a cinema, through press, right? What you can arrange, you can give a variety of experiences to the learners. Like through television, you can just show them that what is actually social media, what actually is the mass media. You can just tell it to the learners also, and you can just show them that what actually is a radio is, because the new generation, they are more familiar with the iPads, they are more familiar with the laptops, but they are just missing out that how actually the radio works. Or if you present before them that what was the image or how the first invention of radio was done, right, way back hundreds of years ago, or how the first television it started working, what was its size, it was so much big in size, huge in size. So they will get an idea that the importance of technology is, what is the importance of technology. This you can just discuss with them. So this is about the radio, then about the broadcasting that I have discussed with you, broadcasting in terms of the through the television or through the radio also, right? Similarly, education, television. So I'm just scrolling the screen a little bit faster because I have give you a brief idea, and I hope that based on your experiences, like we have heard about BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. So we all know that what actually BBC is. BBC is just going to complete almost 1 century. Why BBC is still relevant? Because British Broadcasting Corporation or BBC has undergone, or it has gone through the various little, the major and the minor advancement that the technology has given. So that is why it is relevant. Otherwise, what will happen? The radios are not too much relevant nowadays, right? Why? Because the radios, they are replaced by the television. Similarly, the televisions, now we have different type of the televisions. We have the televisions earlier used to be very big in size. Now we have the flat televisions. Now what is the importance, what are the merits of these educational televisions? It may be broadcasted, the programs may be broadcasted 24 by 7. It may be broadcasted to the areas where no teachers are available, right, where less teachers are there. With one television, you can just give the experiences, the real life experiences to more and more learners at the same time. It is quick, it is very lasting. So these are some of the advantages that are there with television and radio, and that is why the new technology is just going to replace the the old technology. Then we have the films also. As I told you, the films. Why the films are required? Because films are basically the motion pictures. And when we talk about the films, as I showed you previously, and let me take you again back to the first part of this session where I discussed with you that we will discuss about these things. So this was the structure. So when we talk about the radio, when we talk about educational television, when we talk about films, when we talk about educational films or press, so how does it play an important role? This we need to understand. We are talking about this section, which I have highlighted here, right? So films are basically the motion pictures. Educational films are also the films which are the motion pictures and which gives give an idea that why and how education is important. Now we may have a film based on some mathematician. We may have a film based on nature, which is very close toward the science. We may have some film based on some sportsman, maybe from Nigeria, maybe from Ghana, maybe some Olympic medal winner from your country, right? So if you are going to show them that film, irrespective of giving them some theoretical lecture, so that educational film will really be more meaningful than the day-to-day lecture, right? So the last one is the press also. So in this way, you see that with the advancement of technology, and especially in the current decade, in the year 2023 and in the upcoming decades, right, we need to shift from the day-to-day conventions. We need to move from the day-to-day usage of technology to the advanced use of technology, and that use of technology, it should be done in the form of some media or multimedia packages, so that that may be applied directly in the field of education. Like if we talk about internet, use of internet, so internet is very vast thing. We need not to go with the details of internet. We need to only understand that how internet can be helpful for spread of education, right? So that is more meaningful, irrespective of the fact that we go for a detailed discussion on what internet actually is, because internet in itself is at its own pros and cons. Internet itself is good, it may be good, it may be bad, but what we have to look upon as a school teacher, as a school head, what is the role of the school head in planning and management? That we need to look on the positive sides of the technological media in education, and for that we need to understand its nature that I discussed with you. We need to use or to discuss its psychology. We need to understand its need and importance. We need to understand that how it can be made more effective. We need to understand that what may be the problems when you are using the teaching aids. We need to understand that what is the classification of the teaching aid. We need to understand that are there only these mass medias or something some else are also there. Like here we have taken only four or five: radio, ETV, films, and education films. But it is not so that these are only, like we have not taken here the computers. So computers may also be taken here, right? Which have replaced even the radio and the television and the other means of mass media. Okay, so I hope that with the detailed discussion of unit number 4 and unit number 3, and previously on day 3rd of February this year, in the last week, last Friday, right? I hope that with all this discussion, uh, I was able to uh, convey in front of you, convey with you all my expertise, which is very closely related or totally based on the school leadership and management, that what actually the school leadership and management is all about. So if you have some queries, then you may please unmute yourself. We are left here with 4 participants. Any questions, any queries? uh, you may just post your questions in the LMS also. You may use that platform also, which has been designed by Indira Gandhi National Open University, and or you may ask your question here also. Yeah, Miss
No,
Sufyan.
no question for me.
Okay, so it was a good experience for me, right, as an educational expert, to deliver with you certain points which are required, which are essentially required, I will say, when we talk about school leadership and management. And since you are the learners who have enrolled in the postgraduate diploma in school leadership and management, and You will find that all these issues which I have discussed with you, you can later on go for the recording also. You will find that these points, they play a very important role in understanding and in getting an idea that how you can manage these activities or these new innovations in your institution or your neighborhood institutions, and just go and play a vital role for the you can say for the upliftment or for the welfare of the society, right? So it was a good experience for me, and let me thank and congratulate Mr. Peter, Mr. Aidu, Remin Dako, and Sufyan. And I hope that someone is joined with us from Regional Center Dehradun also. Or well, this is all from my side. Any one of you just want to comment or any observation, Miss Sufia or Mr. Remin Dako? Any one of you? Yeah. You can just yeah, you can just be on a video mode also, right? You can switch on your camera also. Yeah, please, please. Yeah, over to you. Yeah, please. You want to make some comment? Okay, I think there is some network issue from your side. No issues. Okay, you may please mute yourself. Please mute yourself, right? Okay, so dear participants, yeah, Mr. Rimindako, please mute yourself. Okay, fine, thank you. Okay, well, dear participant, if you don't have any query, or if you are planning to go with the LMS where you can post your questions, I will try to answer there. Right, it was a good experience from my side, and I hope the same from your side. Thank you all, and thanks to the Regional Center Dehradun as well as the Indira Gandhi National Open University for organizing such a good academic event, academic program, which is very helpful for the teachers across the world, and very inspiring and interesting for me also. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Regional Center Dehradun, and thanks to the Indira Gandhi National Open University. Thank you all. Dear learners, since the time is over, you can just leave
Thank
the
you very
meeting,
much.
right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.